Hello and welcome back to my channel. Do you know this still hasn't got old? Like, it shouldn't. I've been here about 5 minutes, but I'm quite impressed with myself that I'm actually sitting down to record another video. I wish like I had some fun stuff to update everybody with. This slick back is like, it's not working. I feel like one of the guys from Mulan every time I do this hair, and like I felt cute in the gym this morning, and now it's just giving, I don't know, desperately in need of a hair wash, maybe. Anyway, I thought today what we could cover is the secret to getting toned, because I get a lot of like inquiries with regards to like coaching and stuff like that, and I'll say like, what are your goals? What is it that you want to get out of this? And a common one is fat loss, but another common goal is like, I want to look like I train, like I want to look toned. And I'm not about to sit here and do that dicky coach thing where I go, toned isn't a thing. Toned means having lower body fat percentage and more muscle mass. But I am going to talk you through like the mechanism of doing that, because when it comes to like the secret of looking toned, I'm going to be honest, it does often take more muscle mass than perhaps people realise. And again, I don't hold myself up as like #1 beach babe, best bod in the world, but I do have tone. Like, I'm not super toned, as in I'm not super lean, but you can feel muscle, which is pretty cool. And the amount of women I speak to who are like, I want to be able to feel something. I want to be able to feel like all of this hard work I'm putting in is paying off in terms of how my body looks. And yes, the mechanism of looking more toned does mean having a lower body fat percentage and a higher percentage of muscle mass. It is doing that body recomposition thing. But one of the biggest things people cock up is they only focus on fat loss. So never focus on the art of actually maintaining and then gaining muscle, which is so important. Because if you want like a fat ass, you want capped delts, you want biceps you can feel, you do need to have enough muscle mass, because otherwise you are not going to tone what isn't there. Okay, so that's like point #1. Point #2 is, this is where a lot of it comes down to the way that you train. And something I am huge on inside my coaching world is educating women on how to get better results in the gym, because I see so many plans and programs out there and I look at them and I'm like, I wouldn't tap with the 10-foot barge pole because I'd just be wasting my time. Like, there are so many plans out there that are written and they just have too much junk volume. Like, they have loads of exercises in that aren't really going to get you there. They don't teach you how to progressively overload, and it doesn't really then work. And I think something that's a huge misconception is like, you need to spend hours in the gym in order to build muscle, and you don't. I speak to so many women who are like, I can only train 3 days a week. Is that enough? Yes, it is. And I would argue that I'd rather you do 3 sessions that you can like really commit to, really push in, and then have your recovery time, rather than do 5 sessions that are half-assed. Like, I would argue that that is often a much better way to structure your training and your progress, because ultimately the other side of the coin is that like being toned also requires having not too much body fat, which means we need to make sure that you're moving. We need to make sure that you're eating well. Like, you can't completely separate these things. So if you are like, yes, I wanna look toned, I want that shape, I want those curves, I don't want to feel like I'm just putting in all of this hard work for nothing. #1 is, you need to like actually nail your fat loss periods so that you can get out and spend more time at maintenance. Like, we don't want you spending all of your life in fat loss. Now, obviously, if you are starting in a much larger body, you may potentially have to go through like a longer period of fat loss in order to get your body fat down and to get you to a place where you will then be able to start seeing some of the muscle that you build. But you should never not be focusing on building muscle at the same time. Like, one of the biggest gripes I have with popular, let's say, weight loss programs, I'm not going to name any names, is that they don't encourage enough resistance training. So it's all focused around weight loss. Even with the use of GLP-1 medications, which are awesome for so many people, you need to make sure that you're resistance training at the same time, or else you're going to drop a load of body fat, but you're also going to drop a load of muscle mass. You're going to look flat and you're not going to be toned, and you're potentially also going to be left with a lot more like loose skin than you would ideally want. So we need to make sure that #1, we're nailing our fat loss phases to actually get our body fat percentage down. but also that we're combining it with resistance training so that we can cause those adaptations in our muscle tissues so that they can then grow, they can come back bigger, stronger, and then ultimately you are going to get that quote unquote toned appearance. I think something that a lot of women struggle with is the concept of like, well, am I going to get bulky? Like if I start lifting weights and if I start progressively overloading like you're telling me to, am I going to just end up feeling like chunky and feeling a lot bigger? Now, obviously, if your body fat percentage is higher and then you effectively just layer on muscle mass on top of it, you are potentially just going to feel a little bit bulkier, right? Because you've got the original amount of body fat, then you're adding on more muscle mass. The two together is just going to make you feel bigger. Whereas if you are going through that process where you are gradually taking down your body fat percentage, you're gradually adding on muscle mass, no, you will not look bulky. You will look quote unquote toned. And I'll insert a couple of pictures here because I am the same body weight in both. On the scales, the same, okay? But physically, one is holding a lot more body fat, two is holding less body fat and more muscle. And it's like this body composition check, like side by side, again, I think opens your eyes to like, oh yeah, I actually do need to do the process of dropping body fat, but I also need to be training in order to grow muscle. And like I've spent the last 8 years consistently hypertrophy training. Like all of my training has been designed around getting stronger, building more muscle mass for 8 years, non-stop, very few breaks in between. I have had periods of time where I have been in fat loss in that time. And I've been in periods of time where I've been in maintenance. I've had periods of time where I've probably even been in a surplus, but a lot of that time hasn't been tracked. So I can assume from periods of time where I've gained weight that I have been in a surplus, but I wouldn't be able to tell you how much. I also haven't in that time regularly had my body fat percentage measured. Number one, because there's no really accurate way of doing it without going for a DEXA scan. And number two, because I literally only know my body fat percentage recently because I went and had a medical where they make you stand on the scales that do your muscle mass. I don't take it as particularly accurate, but it wasn't a bad number, so I'm not going to hate on it. I'm not going to be like, oh my God, no, it was so inaccurate, because it wasn't that bad. So yeah, like, but this process is how you get toned. Over time, you want to run fat loss phases. If you are starting with like if you're starting in a body weight that you're not unhappy with, but you're like, I just want to look more toned, then I would say starting with a more moderate deficit is going to be ideal, because I know people will argue about like how much body fat you're probably going to have to lose or how much weight you might want to lose. But if you're like, I feel good in my weight, I just want to reduce my body fat percentage and increase my muscle mass, then I would say like start with a moderate deficit, like 300 to 400 calories, 300 to 500 calories. Try and chip away at it slowly. Like don't set yourself a target of trying to lose like 5 kilos in 8 weeks, because there's just not really much point. You also don't want the biggest deficit, because you want to make sure you've got enough fuel to actually fuel your training sessions and your recovery. With more aggressive deficits, yes, the argument will be that you lose your body fat quicker, but you are also putting yourself at a higher risk of losing more muscle mass. And if you're working so hard for this muscle and you don't want to lose it, then obviously you don't want to immediately enter into a deficit and start trashing yourself and then be like, oh well, I've lost weight but I've also lost muscle mass and I really don't feel as strong. Like the optimal is when you're in a fat loss phase, you will continue to get stronger. Like you shouldn't actually be getting weaker. If you are, potentially something is off with either your calories or your recovery or your training progression. Like that's, we can't really argue with that. But yes, we do need to get your body fat down, but we really need to focus on getting your muscle mass up. And again, I think that dichotomy of like, am I gonna get bulky? Am I just gonna start feeling really big? It puts a lot of women off resistance training. But if you look at a lot of like bikini competitors, coaches who have that visible muscle mass, who are doing photo shoots and stuff like that, all of them will have way more muscle mass than you are thinking of, but they also will potentially have a lot less body fat than you think. And that's kind of like the process that you have to go through. Like I will always credit some of my best physique progress with my unintentional bulks, which was basically just where I just went and did my own thing and regained some weight, but also continued training in that time. Like when I've had those periods, when I've then dieted afterwards, I'm like, oh, actually, this has made some of the best progress. Like between 2021 and 2023, when I didn't diet at all, I just purely was living my life, having fun, training like 4 to 5 times a week, etc. That's probably when I made the best physique progress ever, because I had really good foundations embedded. I had a really good kind of training structure that I was following. I was doing enough volume that was causing my muscles to have to adapt and grow and all of that kind of stuff. And I was able to train hard because I wasn't dieting. And this is the thing. You can focus on fat loss all you want, and you can still be like, yeah, but I want to lose more body fat. But if you want to have capped delts, a juicy ass, visible back muscles, at the end of it, you need to make sure that you're growing enough muscle, which is why I work with a lot of girls who have come off the back of this like long dieting, been trying to be in a calorie deficit all year, haven't really lost weight, haven't yet gone to where they want to be. And often the first thing I do is I'll be like, we're working on maintenance. And they're like, what? What do you mean we're not working on fat loss to start with? But it's because it's like, you need more muscle mass. So we might as well do that now, because your relationship with food is warped. You're not having a nice time. Let's focus on actually maintaining. Let me teach you the foundations of how to maintain. Put those foundations in place, and then we can use them to springboard your fat loss. But in that time, you will be growing muscle. And then they turn around, they're like, actually, yeah, food is taking up a lot less of my focus. I'm training better than ever before, and I'm feeling really strong. Awesome. Let's now go into a deficit, 8 to 12 weeks, peel a bit off and see what we're left with at the end. And this is a way that I will often work with my clients who have that goal of like getting toned. Now, again, obviously the caveat is if you are in a larger body and you are carrying a lot more body fat than is ideal for you at the moment, we might be doing a longer process of fat loss. But if we're resistance training throughout that time, if we're pushing for that progressive overload, so we're trying to make things harder week in, week out, then you are at some point going to be able to turn around, hit your maintenance block, hold steady, then also look at, longer term maintenance, muscle gain phases, another fat loss phase, and then end up quote unquote toned. And I want to tell you about one of my clients who has lost 20 kilos, I know, inside the last year. Her body shape has completely changed. She's incredible, not because she's lost weight, but she's like started running. She's really put time into her health and fitness. She's getting stronger. And the reason she can now turn around and be like, oh, I am actually starting to feel like I'm toned, is because she has trained consistently throughout that time. And we're now in a maintenance phase. And part of the reason that we're doing that is not just to offset the fatigue from the dieting and the fact that she has lost 20 kilos, but it's also so we can have a bit of time where we can put more effort into her training, because she's training on maintenance calories. She can feel stronger, she can progress her training, and then when we go into her next fat loss phase, which we're going to be doing inside the next few months, what she will end up with afterwards is a body that looks stronger, has more visible muscle mass, and is more toned, because we will chip away at the body fat, but we've got the muscle mass where we want it to be, or closer to where we want it to be. This is the secret. So if you are sat here watching this and you're like, I've basically just been chasing fat loss, and I've basically just been trying to be in a calorie deficit, genuinely one of the best things I can encourage you to do is have 3 to 6 months minimum at maintenance. Still be training your 3 or 4, maybe even 5 times a week. Enjoy progressively overloading, enjoy following a training structure that feels a lot more doable, enjoy having that progress, and then turn around to me and be like, yeah, you were right, because now look at me. And like genuinely, the best times that my physique has progressed is not because of the fat loss. Yes, the fat loss shows more and you get more lines and more veins and funky shit like that going off. And obviously you guys know I'm back in a calorie deficit. But part of the reason I'm doing that is to strip away a bit more body fat, see what muscle I have built, hopefully there's some, and then start from another place to then build my physique. Like, this at its core is kind of where I think a lot of like the bodybuilding side of things came out. Like, and this is the bit that bodybuilders do incredibly well, is build muscle, because their training is all around hypertrophy, building muscle. So when it comes to, I want to look toned, you have to make sure that you are eating enough, You have to make sure that you are training hard enough. You have to make sure that you are progressively overloading, but then you will also want to do periods of time at fat loss to chip away at the body fat to then peel back a little bit more of what's underneath. And that, my loves, is the secret to looking toned. Next week, I'm gonna try and do a 2-week fat loss update for anyone that wants to know. So far I will say we're 10 days in, it's going all right, but I am about to head back down to Kent. I am going to see family, which means I've got a couple of lunches out. I've got lunch with the girls. So we'll see how I navigate that, and I will report back next week. As always, all my contact details are in the show notes. But I will just say, I'll put it out there right now, my training app Solo, which if you haven't heard me speak of this, is my training app where you guys can sign up. You pick from a variety of 8-week programs. You have everything laid out in front of you in regards to like how to progress, how to get stronger, when to go up in weights, when to go up in reps and stuff like that. Each training plan has a different focus. So we've got beginner programs, we've got shorter programs for those of you that are super busy. We've got Hourglass, which is my glutes, back and delt focus program. We've got Build, which is my like overall hypertrophy strength program. We've got Sweat, which is my hybrid lifting and cardio program. Like there's loads to choose from based on your goal, and you get to pick which training plan you follow. It's got all of your like exercise swaps written in there. You've got space to track all of your progress, track your scale weight, track progress photos. But that at the minute is $14.99 a month. It is staying at the founder's price of $14.99 a month until the beginning of May. So as of the 1st of May, that price is going to be going up. So if you want to bag yourself a 7-day free trial, test out some of the programs, see the vibe, join the Telegram group, get in on the girls chat, then you have until the end of April to lock in for the founder's price. Okay, so you get a free 7-day trial. It's $14.99 a month. You can pause, you can cancel at any time you like, but I bet you're going to want to stay. So that's going to be the top link posted below. So have a little nosy. Enjoy the free trial. You can cancel if you want, but you're not going to want to. So I'm just putting it out there. I'm just giving you the heads up. Anyway, that's all. Go have a gorgeous week wherever you are, and I'll be back with you next week.